Hello and welcome to Odds on Champions League Semi-Finals first leg. Only 4 teams are here, and we have 2 great games, of course. On Tuesday, PSG Bayern Munich. I think is the best game you can see in Europe right now. On Wednesday, you have Atletico de Madrid, Arsenal. I wouldn't say this is the best game you can see in Europe right now, but one of these teams are going to the final. So, guys, stay with us because we have Tom Rennie, we have Ronan Murphy. We are going to break down all the stats, all the info of these games, and tell you, of course, the best bets and the best tips for these 2 games. So, of course, also I want to know your opinion. Let us know what you think about these 2 games. And now let's go on with the show. Well, the huge game, I think we all can agree, is on Tuesday, is Bayern Munich PSG, or PSG Bayern Munich, because it's played in the Parc des Princes. We expect the winner to be champions, and so do the bookies. Bayern are favorites to win the Champions League, 2.75, PSG third level with Arsenal 3.5, and if we check the odds for this game, is really balanced. I think we are talking about the best 2 teams in Europe, the current champions, and probably the team that has been sharper this season, scoring plenty of goals in Europe. In the domestic league, they just won the Bundesliga. They just knocked out Real Madrid. So I think it's very difficult to know which of these teams are going to win this season. Bayern won already in Paris, but Ronan, if we expect one thing, is goals.
Yes, I think that's exactly what everyone is expecting from this match, because these are the 2 teams with the most goals so far in the Champions League. They have something like 38 goals each, and they're also the 2 teams that have played the matches that have had the most goals in them. So PSG are averaging 2.7 goals per match they play in the Champions League, or their matches themselves are averaging 2.7 goals, and 3.2 goals in Bayern Munich matches in the Champions League this season. So we are expecting lots of goals, and that is what we are hoping from Tuesday night. And I think some of the commenters, and I think perhaps Tom and I, are not expecting too many goals on Wednesday. So this is the marquee match of the week. And like you said, Bayern Munich are the favourites for the Champions League, but they're not necessarily the favourites with the Opta supercomputer. I had a look this morning, and they are only the second favourites, 34.61% chance of winning the Champions League, but a 61% chance of progress in this match, because their history against PSG is fantastic. In the last 8 meetings, Bayern have won 6, PSG have won 2, and the only one of those was the Club World Cup. So, yeah, Bayern Munich, they just tend to beat PSG every time they play in the Champions League. This is not the Club World Cup. This is a competition that actually means something. So there is a lot on the line in this one. Yeah, it's the second most played Champions League fixture since 2017-18. Only Real Madrid, Man City has been played more times. So we're hoping that will live up to some of the hype of the past. There could be a one where Luis Enrique can make a bit of history, because if he wins this match, he will become the quickest head coach in Champions League history to reach 50 wins. Pep Guardiola has that record with 50 wins in his first 80 games in Champions League, but Luis Enrique has only managed 76 so far, so he will break Pep Guardiola's record. But I don't think that's going to happen. I'm going for Bayern Munich to win, of course, here. That is inevitable as the Bundesliga correspondent on Oddspedia. I'm looking at AI. What AI is telling me, it's giving me smart bet 5 stars for a Bayern Munich double chance. I like to look at that one at 166. I like the 4 stars it's given to Bayern Munich to win at 292. I also like the goals market, because that looks great. I am intrigued in a correct score here of 1-2, because that sometimes happens. Bayern Munich and PSG both tend to score. Bayern Munich tend to win when they play PSG. They won 2-1 in Paris earlier this year. Yes, 2-1 again will be 11. And like I said earlier, these are the teams who've scored the most goals. Harry Kane is the highest scorer in the competition who is still left playing in the competition. So he has 12 Champions League goals. That's as many as Mario Gomez scored for Bayern Munich back in 2011-2012. But he needs 3 more to match Robert Lewandowski's best single season for Bayern Munich, and 5 more to reach Cristiano Ronaldo. So he might need a couple of hat-tricks between here and the end of the tournament to do that. So Harry Kane is usually a good bet for a anytime goal scorer in any match he plays, but I like the look of, before I get to that, I like the look of 𝐿 𝐭𝐵𝐵𝐻. He has created the most chances in the Champions League this season with 229, or in the Champions League since 2016, 2017, 229. That's more than Toni Kroos, who's next, 190. Him to score or assist is 325. But like I said, Harry Kane, anytime goal scorer, is always a good bet for any game Harry Kane plays in for club or country. And for a change, it's over 2. So that's why it's my favourite bet for this match. Harry Kane to score 220.
Well, he's been brilliant with the club, with the national team, even in a friendly game this weekend, scoring against Mainz, also against Real Madrid. It's going to be very interesting, this duel. Also, 𝐿𝐭𝐵𝐵𝐻 in the midfield. But, Tom, I think it's going to be a completely different game from the one we saw in November. This PSG has been coached to arrive to this point at the top of the level, and I think Luis Enrique made it again. It's a team to fear, this PSG. Usually they get past the British opposition. We saw it last season, and this season also they were brilliant against Chelsea, against Liverpool. This is the bigger test, and as we know, only Real Madrid could have won back-to-back Champions League trophy, so it's also the ultimate challenge for this PSG, Luis Enrique.
Yeah, look, I think it's a great game. I think it's such a fantastic game. And what I like about it compared to the other one is that I want to watch it. But also the other thing I like about it is that both teams are going to try and win the game, and they're both going to try and win both games. Like, I'd be surprised if there was any sort of PSG low block, allow Bayern to have the ball and just hit on the break, and that's all they do. There's going to be periods in both games where both teams are on top because they are the two best teams in Europe, and they imprint themselves on games, and they usually get victory in the games they play. I mean, in terms of Paris Saint-Germain, I think the only doubts for me in terms of this game, if we forget the two legs at the moment, just talk about this game, is that I don't think the goalkeeper is particularly strong. I think he has some good games, but I think they haven't got a top-class goalkeeper compared to Bayern, who still do, despite the age of Manuel Neuer. I do think that in midfield, there is a possibility they can get overpowered. I feel like I said that all the time. It never happens. But I do think if Bayern Munich control the game with the three behind the striker, Musiala's now in for gnabry, and he's in with 𝐿𝐭𝐵𝐻 and I guess Pavlovic in midfield or someone else, they're going to boss that area. And it's about trying to dominate that area, right? I think that's where this game's going to be won and lost. And I'm still not sure 𝐬𝐿 is as good as who he's replaced in that central midfield role. I do think Neves and Ruiz are really good players, but I just wonder about, in this particular game, who's got the stronger trio. If I was to pick one today, I would say it's probably Bayern, and I would say it's probably because of 𝐬𝐿, but we'll find out together on the day. It's going to be a real ultra-offensive performance from both teams. And again, look at the front threes. They're incredible. But if we're just comparing the three, Harry Kane, the numbers are amazing. analyse is, if you care about such things, I don't, but some do. I think he is a goal in a Champions League semi-final or final away from being the Ballon d'Or winner this time around. I think Luis Diaz continues to be effective in big games, as he's been all season for Bayern. And as brilliant as the PSG 3 are, if I had to pick a 3, it would be the Bayern 3. And I think defensively, I'd say Bayern are slightly stronger as well, because they have to play this high wide defense all the time. So when teams come up against Paris Saint-Germain, they find themselves stretched. You saw it in the way _𝐿𝐿 got embarrassed and Virgil van Dijk got embarrassed and Joe Gomez, God bless him, got embarrassed in the game against Liverpool. Here, I think this defense are going to be used to it. They're so exposed all the time. They're so consistently exposed that I think it's still going to be very, very hard. But I think every Bayern defender backs themselves against the PSG attacker they're facing. So really interesting game. I'm expecting goals at both ends. And I wouldn't be surprised to see this one a high-scoring win either way. But I think either way, the result will favour Bayern in the second leg, unless PSG have somehow run out 3-0 winners, which is unlikely. Love the draw at 4.1. I think that's a really, really interesting bet in terms of 1-1, 2-2, maybe 3-3. Wouldn't be surprised to see it. If you go both teams to score, pick your own winner. PSG is 3.5, for example. Bayern's the same. I mean, they're very similar odds all the way through, depending on who your winner is. Both teams to score is an obvious bet here. Their goal scoring record this season is absolutely extraordinary. both teams are scoring over 2.5 goals in the game is 1.53. Add a winner onto that, you're coming up to about 4, which is all right. I know Ronan's already done it, but we do it every game. He does it every week. Kane anytime, 2.2. You've got to throw that in. I was surprised to hear 2-1. I like the idea of 2-1. I've gone with 2-2 as a correct score, which is weird. 2-2 on its own is 10. But goals at both ends, absolutely pick a winner if you feel it. I think draw, high-scoring draw at that, certainly over 2.5 goals. And I think everything favours a Bayern victory next week. But fantastic game. What a fantastic game.
Well, you both are leaning towards Bayern Munich. Respect the champions. I think be careful with this PSG. Roy the boy, if Bayern defend like they did against Real Madrid, PSG will eat them alive. And we know PSG's midfield is way stronger than Real Madrid ones. And let's see if we see also Dembélé stepping up. He's having a quiet season. We are all talking about his national teammate, 𝐬𝐭𝐚𝐲, but he's also the Ballon d'Or. So we will see. The bookies expect goals. We can see the goals market and the line is in 3.5 goals. So we have odds 2.02 for over 3.5 goals. We can see it right now there. Perhaps you have more value if you go for first half or second half. Actually, with over 1.5 goals is good value on both cases, because I think we all expect a goal feast, especially, I would say, Bayern Munich defend worse than PSG, and we saw it also in the Champions League, because PSG didn't suffer against Liverpool. They suffered against Chelsea in the Parc des Princes defensively. So perhaps it's also a good option for Bayern. Let's read some comments. Jack Ryan going for both teams to score twice. So there you go. As Tom said, 2-2 could be your option. Bayern Atletico final. Book it. Someone is telling us, and James is telling us he feels is Bayern Munich year, not PSG. And finally, let's check out also the AI. Ronan already mentioned that is going for Bayern. Actually, we have a double chance for Bayern is our smart bet option. You can see it. Draw or Bayern is 1.67, full-time Bayern. Higher, of course, 2.88. Well, this is the semi-final. Everyone is watching. We hope we are going to see plenty of goals. And for Wednesday, I think we expect a dreadlock. We expect a boring game, and we have Simeone against Arteta. We have Atletico de Madrid against Arsenal. It would be a great success for these two clubs to get into the final. None of them has ever won a Champions League trophy. Arsenal made it to the final once, Atletico de Madrid 3 times, but still no trophy. So we can see the odds, and even for the Metropolitano game, Arsenal is slightly favored. I'm not too sure, because we are seeing how Atletico are very strong when they are playing at home. With Simeone, only 1 defeat in knockout stages in the Champions League, and was in the previous round against Barcelona. But if PSG and Bayern, Tom, arrive full of confidence, these two teams, I would say, is the opposite. Also this weekend, we saw Havertz and Eze going out of the game, probably, or they will miss this game at the Metropolitano. For Atletico de Madrid, Barrios is out. Julian Álvarez is doubtful. So I'm not sure which team I would back here. You know, I was tempted to go for Atletico de Madrid, but since that game against Barcelona at Camp Nou, they are fading away. They lost also the Copa del Rey final. Not too sure. Tom, what is your feeling?
I think the Kai Havertz bit is the interesting bit. I think that is really, really interesting to me, because if Kai Havertz is fit, I think this Arsenal team sort of works. And I think without Kai Havertz, it doesn't work. We saw that in the Sporting semi-final, certainly in the away game. I don't think Arsenal have anyone the quality of Kai Havertz in an offensive position. I think it's a huge drop-off, frankly, from Kai Havertz to everyone else behind him. And 𝗵𝗔 𝐿 is good at some things, but he's not good at the way Arsenal play, and he hasn't got the pacing behind to exploit teams. Bukayo Saka comes back to sort of fitness, but he looks totally not sharp enough to be playing a Champions League semi-final, when Noni Madueke is a mid-level Premier League player, and he kind of proves that to us week in, week out. But he's perfectly fine for Brentford, perfectly fine for Everton. Champions League semi-final, I'm not too sure. Hopefully he'll prove me wrong and score a hat-trick in this game, but I think the drop-off in the Arsenal attack is poor. And 𝐿𝐭𝐻, if he is unavailable for this game, is a huge spanner in the works to the Arsenal plan, because the rest of it is still pretty decent. Though I do think we can't be playing 𝗵𝐿𝐻 again in a Champions League semi-final. I know Ben White isn't a particularly huge jump forward and there's injuries to other players, but I think Ben White's got to play at full back. I think if someone else is fit, I think 𝐿𝐿𝐵 comes out as well. It depends on who's fit. I think Saliba and Gabriel have looked exposed in recent weeks, having to play with that pairing alongside them, certainly in the Man City game. Midfield, Zubimendi and Rice look knackered, but there's no rotation at all with Arsenal. We've barely seen Norgard all season. I think that could play a part as this game goes on, certainly in the second leg, but certainly in the first leg. If Atleti are on top here, and you've got Declan Rice sprinting back towards his own goal, as he's been doing for so much of this season. So all sorts of issues for Arsenal. However, they remain very well drilled, very well coached. They do what they do, which is kill the game as much as possible, score a goal, and kill it even further. It's gotten this far, and I'm sure Simeone, old Simeone, would have appreciated the way Arsenal play. If they are to win this game and win this tie, they will do it in the ugliest way possible. They will slaughter this game as best they possibly can. They'll play for corners, they'll play for throws, they'll throw it in long, they'll go down injured every 3 minutes. The goalkeeper will take 8 minutes over every goal kick, and then when they nick a goal, they'll make it even worse. Of course, if Atleti score, it's a different world. And in terms of Atleti, obviously the La Liga season's totally over. The Copa del Rey was a massive disappointment to lose that. So good win the weekend, plenty of rotation against Athletic Club. I thought maybe 6 or 7 changes. I mean, I haven't been through it all, but there's certainly names I wouldn't have expected to see in the first team at the weekend going into midweek. Playing a pretty standard 4-4-2 from what I've been able to see so far this season. And I think that they're a lot more offensive, right? They are a lot more offensive than Arsenal, and they are going to pin them back and pin them back and pin them back. It's whether they can break Arsenal down in the same way that everyone has been trying to break Arsenal down this season. I think there's 2 scenarios for this game. Number 1, Arsenal win a super ugly match, and they win it by 1-0, similar to Sporting. If Kai Havertz is playing, I'd fancy him again to be the difference maker. If not, I'd be looking more at 0-0 than I would be at 1-0. The Arsenal win at 2.72, I think, is really good odds. I'd absolutely take that. If you're looking at the under, as you always should with Arsenal, Arsenal under 2.5 goals is 5. 1-0 to the Arsenal. Ugh, felt gross saying that. 7.5. And you know I love a group bet. 1-0, 2-0, or 3-0 together comes in at 5. And again, if Arsenal are going to do it, Havertz anytime, if fit, is 4. Arsenal by exactly 1 goal. It's all the bets I do every week, you know. Arsenal exactly 1 goal is 4. If you're looking for Atleti, I think it'll be, again, by exactly 1 goal. Look at 4.33 for that. Really interesting bet. If Atleti score and Arsenal come onto them, there's a chance that maybe Atleti score a couple of late ones. Don't discount that as well. Also, I like 0-0 at 9. So there you go. I'd love to see Atleti tear Arsenal apart, and Arsenal got to come out in the second leg and try and overcome. I think it's more than likely this is going to be a tough watch.
Yes, the problem is that Atletico this season, they don't defend well, and they don't have even great defenders. You were mentioning 𝗵𝐿𝐻, but if we go through Atletico's lineup, we have Ruggeri, we have Lenglet, we have Pubil, and Lenormand, and Llorente being the best. Oblak is back, which is good news, although Musso was also great against Barcelona. So, Ronan, be careful, I think, with this defense from Atletico Madrid, especially, and we know well Arsenal in set pieces. I think Arsenal can harm Atletico de Madrid in set pieces.
I was hoping someone might give me some good news and make me optimistic to watch this match, but it does not seem that is happening in any way. I don't think I don't think anyone in the comments is even. We're getting lots of under 2.5 goals and boring Arsenal comments. So yeah, it's not. This match is a tough sell, and I'm interested to see how some of the broadcasters might sell this as they hype up everything. Because I remember watching the semi-final that won the second legs, and the TNT commentators in the UK and Ireland, they were talking about we have a great weekend of football coming up, a Super Sunday. And it was Fulham versus Brentford is what they were trying to hype up. So this feels like the Fulham versus Brentford of the Champions League at the moment. And yeah, because Arsenal are just they're just a team who don't concede goals, and they've only conceded 3 goals in their last 12 first halves of the Champions League, and none in their last 4. David Raya obviously has the most clean sheets in the Champions League this season with 8. Yeah, so there was only 2 shots on target in the Arsenal Sporting second leg. That was the second fewest in any game in the Champions League this season, and it was the lowest 𝐿𝐴 of any game in the Champions League this season. So it's clear what Arsenal want to do. Tom has outlined it perfectly many times, and does every week. He goes for those trademark bets, like I go for the trademark ones for Bayern Munich. I didn't mention 𝐿𝐴𝐳 to go for an assist again this time. Maybe I should have, but yeah, this is a match where it's harder to find the value. A smart bet is going for 5 stars on Arsenal to win the first half at 340, but I'm kind of more intrigued in a first half draw at 206, because I think it could be 0-0 in the first half, because under 1 goal in the first half is 171. I think there could be absolutely nothing in this first half. I know it was 4-0 the last time they met in October, but when they last met in the European semi-finals back in 17-18 in the Europa League, which Atletico Madrid went on to win, it was 1-1 in London, and it was 1-0 in Madrid for Atletico. So I think we're expecting something similar here, although this Atletico, like we said, are a different team than the Atletico of the past. They have their most goals ever in the Champions League this season. 34 goals in the Champions League this season. That's not too many behind Bayern and PSG, like I mentioned earlier. And the previous S was 26. So, yeah, they're scoring lots of goals. If Alvarez was fit, I'd be looking at him to have maybe as a shot on target sort of bet would be a way to go for him, because like Tom said, Arsenal could be pegged back for a lot of times. David Raya could be busy, so there could be lots of shots on target, and Julian Alvarez could be the man to get them. It's a very interesting that both teams to score in this match is 195 for yes and 196 for no. So the bookies don't know whether both teams are going to score in this match. Smart bet again. It's going for 5 stars for total goals over 2.5, which slightly intrigues me, because maybe if Atletico were to score, there could be some goals in this match. If Arsenal score first, like Tom said, yeah, game over. Nothing is happening here. But if Atletico score first here, maybe there could be goals, maybe there could be late goals, maybe it could be interesting. So perhaps if you have something that could be slightly more interesting on Wednesday, do that for the first 45 minutes to see how we're doing, and then turn in for the second half if you want. The only thing that's given me any sort of a boost is Atleti's home record versus English teams. 18 games, 9 wins, 7 draws, and just 2 defeats. And they've advanced 11 of the 15 times they've played against English teams. I am slightly more confident in Atleti than Tom is. I'm going for draw home, half-time, full-time at 650, and Atletico Madrid Asian handicap 0 at 2.06.
Well, I think the atmosphere is going to be fantastic at the Metropolitano. It's a very tough stadium in this special night, so I wouldn't be surprised if Atletico takes a small margin to London. We have Harry going, come on Atletico. I'm expecting a strong Atleti. David is telling us everyone underestimated Atletico de Madrid, just as they did against Barcelona. I have to say that I said that Atletico would get into the final when they were facing Barcelona. So now I'm not jumping off this boat, and I still believe on Atletico de Madrid, especially in this game at home. You mentioned, Ronan, some history between these two teams, especially in that European semi-final was the Europa League. Was the last game, last European game with Arsene Wenger on the bench, and at that time Atletico advanced, won the trophy, and it was an epic game, especially in London, playing with 10 men and Griezmann scoring the equalizer in the last minutes, then to advance into the final. And this season, remember, they face each other, and Arsenal thrashed Atletico de Madrid, but we all know that was another Arsenal, the one we saw in October, November, probably was the best team in Europe back then. It's not the case right now, and they have also their minds in the Premier League. So great game. This one, we can check some markets. You mentioned the goals market, and I'm surprised actually to see the good odds for the over 2.5 goals. Is 2.2, as you mentioned, but still the bookies don't place, they expect an under, but it's 1.7, but it's not that clear that we are going to see a goalless draw. I think that as many people think is going to be, like the game we saw in Lisbon, for instance, with Sporting and Arsenal, and smart bet first half Arsenal. Odds are massive, 3.4, and also over. So they expect plenty of goals. I think it's going to be crucial, the first goal, as you mentioned. 𝐿𝐵𝐴𝐵𝐵, Bayern and Atletico de Madrid to qualify. I want to know also your opinion ahead of this first leg. Tom, which final do you expect?
Well, Bayern, I think, will beat PSG because of the second leg being at home. And I think the only way PSG would win that across 2 legs is a big win at home, which I don't see happening. The other one is trickier. I've got to say, I think it's going to be a Bayern-Arsenal final. I think that's where we are. I think Arsenal are very, very good at navigating awful games of football. And there's every chance, to your point, that Atleti go on a bit of a tear for 30 minutes and score 3 goals. Arsenal will not score 3 goals, I don't think, across the 2 legs, unless it's a kind of chase the game scenario. So first game, feel very confident about Bayern Munich. Second game, I'd call it 60-40 Arsenal.
Ronan?
I am going for Bayern Munich, clearly, as we all heard earlier when I said Bayern Munich were going to win in Paris. And I also think Atletico Madrid are going to win at home. And I think they could draw away and get through to the final because, yeah, Arsenal, like Tom said, they are not able to score that many goals over. They did it before against Atletico Madrid, but that's in the past. That's not going to happen this time. That is not happening anymore. They've forgotten. They're just burnt out, like Tom said. These players are burnt out. Atletico Madrid are going to go to the final and play Bayern Munich and lose to Bayern Munich 3-0 in the final.
They already lost, actually. It would be like closing the circle because they lost the first final against Bayern Munich. They just conceded in the very last minute in the 70s, then 2 against Real Madrid. And it could be the 4th one, but we are just getting ahead of the games. All right. Great semi-finals, this Champions League. First, we have ACCA, we have safe bet, even if we have only 2 games. But also, let me remind you that we have our tipster competitions going on. April is drawing towards the end, but there's still some chances to play in our tipster competitions. There you go. And also check out Rivals, where you can create your own tipster league and play with your friends. Let's try to make a safe bet and an ACCA, although it's very tough to see safe bets in this Champions League semi-finals. Tom, Rennie?
Yeah, safe, I think, is going for the under in the Atleti-Arsenal game. Under 3.5 is 1.22. That's probably a bit too safe. I think that's probably safe. I would probably look at under 2.5. That's around 1.67, 1.7. I don't know. I just think of the 2 games, go under for one and over for the other. I think the under's more likely.
And Ronan?
I have gone Bayern Munich, PSG, over 2.25 goals. But you know what, for 127.
The 2 options here in the safe bets. And ACCA, Tom?
Just going my scorelines. I think the first game's going to be a draw, and I think Arsenal are going to win the other game. So it's a ludicrous bet, I know, but go for it. Why not? Honestly, it's so tough with 2 games to come up with an ACCA. These are the scores that I've gone for as my favourite. So there you go. Wild bet.
Bet 10 quid. If you are right, you get yourself a flight to an island this summer, and it's good.
Well, the Isle of Wight, it's not that much money.
No, well, it's 100 euros, no? You can go to Tenerife, for instance.
Oh, yeah, okay, that's true. Yeah, with these fuel prices, come on.
Swim. You'll have to jump out halfway.
Yeah, boat. Hire a boat. Yeah.
Okay, you can go to Dublin.
Hovercraft. Hovercraft to Dublin, I can do. Yeah.
Jersey, London to Jersey, maybe for 100 quid. Ronan?
I have gone for a super safe option here. Asian handicap 0 in 2 games, because if they're draws, you get your money back. So yeah, Bayern Asian handicap 0 and Atleti Asian handicap 0 for 4.53.
Okay, with that you can go by bus, Cork, Dublin, maybe.
No, I'd imagine it's much cheaper to go from London to Tenerife on the plane than it is to go from Cork to Dublin on the bus.
This is true. Yeah. I can believe that.
All right, guys. Thank you. See you next week. Remember, we have the second leg already this week, so stay tuned. Let's watch Champions League and let's check Oddspedia also with the best odds. Bye-bye.